I'm Olivia. I specialize in creative strategy and UGC marketing. So we all here already know what UGC is, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So when we talk about UGC, most of the time we think, testimonials, reviews, stuff like that. But what if we added brand team to that? So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I know we're a little bit tight on time, but these are just some of the things we're going to be walking through today. So to start out, obviously, UGC worked because it served as a more, authentic and seemingly unbiased channel for creating ad assets that are optimized for building trust. The whole thing was building trust, right? But as it's become more commercialized and widely used, it's like a huge part of the majority of brands' marketing efforts now. Viewers are starting to become wise of it. They're starting to realize, okay, these people are being paid to create content. And so that's creating a little bit of a shift in the dynamic of trust when it comes to how UGC is perceived. Now, it's not making UGC ineffective by any means, but we are now having to see, we're having to move away from those typical frameworks that were working really well for us for a year or two, and then everybody started doing it, and then obviously they weren't as effective. So we're having to get a little bit more creative with the packaging of the messaging and just using stronger messaging in general. But another style of content that is building trust in a different way is brand team content. And so because of this, you can think founder content or just brand team members being on camera in the ads, right? And so this kind of feels a little bit more like you're getting insider access to the brand instead of just experiential information from a UGC creator. It's less of a recommendation and more like you're gaining access. So it's got a little bit different of a feel as far as building trust and credibility from the viewer standpoint. And so, obviously, especially when you're doing, founder content, they're like the ultimate authority. So that's just a different method for building trust through these ad creatives. So obviously, why this works. So when we look at, behind the scenes, think warehouse concepts, stuff like that, and founder content, it taps into this core bias of we're kind of weird, right? So we seem to trust more what we feel like we're not supposed to know about. So when we get that kind of behind the scenes insider type insights to a brand or a product or why it exists, then it feels a little bit more trustworthy and less like a promotion. So it kind of disarms the viewer in a way. And then obviously the brand team is going to have a deeper product knowledge, so that creates more clarity, and with clarity it's just easier to convert. And yeah, it just feels a lot more credible and well-informed instead of, a creator just saying I bought it because it looked cute and I really wanted to try it out and then it worked. It's more like, we built this for you because, and so it's like I said, less experiential and more well-informed and credible approach. But it can be difficult to scale because this is where the constraint comes in. Now, I know we've got some founders in here, right? So founders don't always have the time to be creating a bunch of content because you're busy being a brand founder, right? And I've also run into a lot of founders who simply don't want to be on camera, right? And that's okay. But we have seen that it is really effective, so that creates a little bit of a problem. And the same with the brand team. I was talking to somebody earlier in here, and she said the brand basically didn't really have a team. So to create brand team content, obviously there's a little bit of an issue there. And the same thing, even if there is a brand team, taking those brand team members out of their original roles to go, create some concepts and create some content is not always super doable. So we get an ad creative, brand team branded content that performs well, but it's not scalable because the team's not able to do it. Not everybody wants to be on camera. Maybe not everybody's comfortable or good on camera. So that's where the constraint comes in. So a little bit more about where this kind of strategic shift is going. So UGC created there was a big thing about making ads more relatable, right? But when you think about UGC, sometimes it's more about, it tends to make the person talking about the brand relatable, but not the brand itself relatable. So leaning more into humanizing the brand itself, the people behind the brand, utilizing the personalities of the brand team to make the brand and the product itself feel more human. And then when you mix in the deeper product knowledge and stuff like that that comes from being on the brand team, you add clarity, which makes it a lot easier to drive conversions. And then, so a couple different ways to do this. Obviously, there's, diving deep into the mechanisms of a product, or just talking about the purpose for that product existing. And then, addressing misconceptions. So, like objection handling, basically. And so, yeah, so we talked about this, why this is working really well, puts a face to the brand behind the product, makes it feel more relatable itself, not just the person talking about it being relatable. And so it builds more trust in a different way than typical UGC would. So here's where so we talked about how there's this gap. Then we know that the brand team founder content performs well, but founders and brand teams aren't always able to execute on that. And so there's this gap of a high performing ad creative and not being able to execute on it. So that is where UGC creators come in. So utilizing UGC creators as extensions of the brand. Instead of just creating concepts about the users, them actually transitioning into creating content as the brand team. So it allows smaller brand teams or just one person, like solo entrepreneurs, one person brands, to be able to have this representation of a brand team, people to speak on behalf of the brand without having to utilize your actual team members to be on camera and things like that. So UGC, as far as like testimonials and reviews, was the first step. Now bringing them in from being just a customer to also like part of this brand is the next step. And so it can be, it's a very simple shift. It's basically just down to making very detailed creative briefs, because obviously they are creators, they're not on your brand team. So when you execute on this, you have to have very specific, clear creative briefs so that they actually know how to keep that brand voice and that brand tone. Because then if you just get somebody who doesn't really know anything about the brand and you want them to speak as your brand team, that's not going to work very well. So you want to make sure that the creative brief is very clear, and sometimes I recommend also just hopping on quick Zoom calls with them too, just to make sure they understand everything about the brand and the messaging and stuff like that. But I did also just want to run through some examples here. All three of these were top performers. One of them, so I was the UGC creator for this one, and a brand had already tapped into utilizing UGC creators for brand team content, and I was one of those creators. These other two I was the creative strategist for, where I hired creators to create brand team style content. So as far as, do I just press play on the laptop here? Okay, perfect. So this one on the left, I did accidentally download the wrong version where there's double captions, so just ignore that. But this is a discount angle, and you see how in this one, for Organics Ocean, I saw somebody else had worked with Organics Ocean, but we found that a lot of their content, their founder-based content, was performing the best, right? But obviously he hired us because he didn't have enough time to be on camera all the time. But what we did is we found a creator that matched his authoritative tone and energy, and then everything from just like a very simple, kind of more professional at-home setting, and then everything from the button up, because the founder would wear a button up in the ads that were performing really well. So we were taking the kind of variables that we could account for and implement it into these ad concepts here. So I'll just play this one here, and you'll be able to guess around which time this ad was created just based off of part of the angle.
We're not raising our prices, we're discounting them. Tariffs? Not a problem for us. See, we chelate our magnesium right here in the USA, which helps us make sure it's as easy as possible for your body to absorb. And we source straight from the Dead Sea, not from China like most of the over-the-counter brands that cut corners with cheap magnesium. In fact, we just lowered our prices on our bundles so you can get all the benefits of high-quality magnesium glycinate. Better sleep, faster metabolism, reduced muscle cramps, without stressing about all the tariff stuff. Go grab yours before we sell out again.
Okay, so pretty straightforward, discount sale angle here. But you can see, as far as execution of getting a UGC creator to do brand team style content, all he needed was a desk and good lighting, right? So then we added in like B-roll, that's my hand. And so we added in B-roll and then like animations, like AI graphics and things like that. So they don't need this huge production, like as far as budgets go. All you just need to do, you can work with like the attire that they're in, the lighting, a simple setting. Like it doesn't have to be complicated, and that performed really, really well.
But that was not the founder?
No. Yeah, he's good though, right? Yeah.
This might upset you, but we didn't make 24 karat for everyone, and that's the point. It's not meant to be the strongest retinoid out there. It's meant to actually work without wrecking your face. It uses 0.05 retinol, so it's gentle but effective. Perfect if you're new to retinoids or have been burned before by something harsher. But if you're already on prescription retinoids and your skin is thriving, you don't need this. Seriously, skip it. This is for people dealing with uneven skin tone, texture, fine lines, or blemishes, who want results without destroying their skin's natural barrier. So tell me, have you ever tried a retinoid that absolutely wrecked your skin? If so, 24 karat might be the way to go for you.
So this is very subtle messaging here, basically starting out disarming the viewer of like, this actually might not be for you, and maybe we didn't even create it for you. So it kind of shouts, hey, we're not promoting this to you right now because maybe it's not, we didn't even make it for you. But very simple concept. All I just needed was a plain background and to hold the mic like, I was talking on behalf of the brand team, and also performed very well. And I do recommend, reverse psychology and that kind of exclusionary angle, because it's very good for just disarming people who are tired of being, bombarded with ads all the time. And then this last one I will say the POV style warehouse packaging concepts I have tried with a vast variety of products and clients, and it hits every time. I know I'm going to say this, maybe everybody will try it now and then it'll stop working. But right now, like I have tested everything from like wellness to, coloring books, food, all this stuff. It works every single time. And I've used it with different seasonality. Like this one you're going to see is like a Halloween concept. I've used it for Christmas. I've used it for Valentine's Day, sales, launches. And people just really like to see hands packing a box. And yeah, you'll see how simple the setup was here. Like those are my hands in a corner in my apartment. And all you really need as far as props and things goes, the thing is like if you're going to outsource this to a creator for that B-roll part, they will need a lot of the product. So just it can be in the background kind of thing. But yeah, just a box and some black gloves, maybe an iPad to look like an order screen, and then you're good to go. So I'll go ahead and play this.
This might be the weirdest order I've ever packed. Natasha from Michigan, I'm about to call you out. She asked for 3 jars of our sea moss flavors, but she wanted the order to be Halloween themed. I'm actually going to throw in our newest flavor, pumpkin. Think cinnamon, vanilla, and all the comfort of pumpkin pie. So good. And I'll chuck in some little Halloween decorations and hope that's what she was looking for. For the other flavors, she's gone with elderberry and blue spirulina. She's getting some of the best flavors. People are always leaving 5-star reviews for these. We throw in free sea moss gummies with every order, and they could pass as Halloween candy. Sea moss is such a simple way to support your gut health without giving up sweets, and it's made right here in the US. It's got over 90 of the 102 vitamin and minerals your body needs, basically a natural multivitamin with no synthetics. And to top it off, there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee, so she's completely covered. This order turned out really fun. Definitely the weirdest, but also one of the coolest I've packed.
Yeah, so very simple as far as what the UGC creator had to actually do for this. She did a script read and she did some B-roll, right? And she could have got, the packing footage herself as well. I just happened to do that myself just for efficiency. But yeah, so with this one, and this had a lot of good elements as far as, the comment response hook that always works well in combination with the packing style. So then it's not just like, okay, watch me pack this. It's like, we're also going to answer this question. Like, it's like, pack this order while I answer this question from so-and-so about a specific product. So then they're getting the visuals like of the, the aesthetically pleasing watching somebody pack something new for somebody. And then they're also getting, it's pretty easy to work in some education in there that feels like more organic. Like the brand team is just like, all right, I'm going to pack this. But, people ask us this all the time, and then kind of go into it in that way. And then this is also a good kind of framework for if you have an offering for any like free gifts and stuff like that, because then you can show the free gift going in there, like, because everybody loves free things, right? So throwing that in there and showing what the bonuses or the sales that's going on that they're getting. But yeah, this was just a very quick run through of a style of ad that I think everybody should try out if they haven't already. But yeah, and I just wanted to show some examples of them, and that is it.
When you're briefing, do you storyboard, or do you give a lot of creative freedom to your creators?
I am very specific about what I give to my creators because so a little bit of background, I was a UGC creator full time for 2 years. So I've done both of like where the brand is just like, hey, we just want a video. run with it, right? And then when they give you the script and the shot list and all that stuff. So when I'm the creative strategist and I'm working with a creator, I know exactly how I want it to come to life, and I'm gonna give them exactly what they need for it to come to life. So especially when it comes to brand team style content, you're gonna want to get very specific with storyboard, shot list. I mean, tell them what to be wearing, what's the tone, the energy of it, like authoritative, or just like sometimes. I mean, there are some really good ones. Carpe does a lot of founder stuff, and like Ridge as well. But with the warehouse behind the scenes stuff, I tend to go not authoritative, but actually more casual. Because when you think about the brand team members who would actually be packing an order, they're not going to sound like the founder. They're not going to sound super authoritative. They're going to be like, oh yeah, like one of my friends tried this too, and they said they really like it. We get all these comments about this, that, and the other. So you can think about in relation to the concept, the kind of tone and energy you're going to want from that, but be really clear in the creative brief about it. So yeah, I go the more detailed creative brief route, versus just being like a little bit more loose with it. So yeah.
I have one follow-up question
Yeah.
as well. Just using that example you had for the warehouse packing.
Yeah.
Would you just tell your creators to do the little B-roll clips and you would then put it all together? Because you have like various I know in some of the other ones there's some AI generated clips and there's different elements to
Yeah.
it.
So with those, I'll usually, just for a little bit of social proof, like you saw the reviews came up too. Any other footage we have of other creators like using or eating or interacting with the product, I'll throw in there too. But as far as like what I got her to do, since I had a lot of the product, I got that POV packing style. But if you send them, depending on what the product is, if it's big, like send them like 5 to 8 of the product. If it's small, a little bit more, then they can get that themselves. They just need a flat surface. Tell them to keep the box. That's something you want to keep in the brief, right? If they're going to need to use that box, let them know, hey, don't tear up the box when it arrives. You're going to want to use it in the concept. But yeah, it can be like if you have a team member or if like your creative strategist can get that content, then you can do it that way. But if you're just like a one-person team and you need this creator to handle it, then you can let them know detailed in the brief how to do that.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, of course.
I've just got a really quick question. Obviously, you are the expert when it comes to the UGC style of things. What tools are you using to pull together all the different elements? So, like the UGC, the AI stuff. What kind of tools and apps do you use to build it all?
You mean as far as the video editing part
Yeah.
goes? I have teams that do the video editing. So as I do fractional creative strategy as well. So I kind of get plugged in to brands teams, and then they have the editors they work with. As the creator myself, there are platforms you can utilize for like AI generated graphics, and there's like you can get stock like animation graphics as well to put in there. But I also just try to do it B-roll style. But if I need like it was like the body scan of like taking a yeah you can get I'll find me afterwards and I'll give you some of the ones that I use to download those kind of like X-ray animations.
I have a question on what's been in the last like 2-3 months a surprising visual hook or prop that you thought wouldn't work but did and was a top performer that everyone here in the room could use.
The gloves.
The gloves,
The snapping the gloves.
the ASMR.
Yeah. And it's so funny because when I looked through the comments on the ad, because the one, it wasn't that exact one, but I did a similar one for a different client, and it was it was a top performer for like over 3 months, and everybody in the tapping on the box. So it was these books, it was coloring books, and I would tap on the box and like tap on the books, and everybody was like, "What's up with all the tapping? Why do they always tap in these ASMR stuff?" And then people just kept talking to each other about it. So like the snapping of the gloves, the tapping on things, and like ripping things open. I mean, I've run over things with a tire for hooks. It was for a shower head. It's like you can really go pretty far out with those things. But so I guess the theme I would take away from that would be kind of damaging a product, tearing things open, snagging breaking things. So be careful with your environment. But yeah, I would say like gloves and stuff like that for POV.
Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah.
Question about, have you noticed a better performing ad if, let's say, the founder concept ran as a brand profile, versus partnership versus whitelisting?
So with the branded stuff, it would make more sense for it to be a brand account, you know, unless it was like, you mean like running a founder ad
Founder-led
on the
content.
founder's
Yeah,
page.
yeah.
I think the closer you can get to actually is on camera, the better. You know, so even if it was supposed to be like a brand team member, and you create, because for whitelisting, some things that some people are doing, some brands are doing, or agencies are doing, are creating their own specific whitelisting accounts. So if you have a creator that the brand is okay with, like being part of that brand team content consistently, you can create a page for them, and it can talk about whatever the theme is. Sometimes, like, have a couple wellness posts if it's for like a supplement or something, and then keep utilizing that same page for whitelisting for that one creator. But I mean, I'd say as far as trust goes, whitelisting is best. But if it is going to be a branded thing, it's very clearly like, we are this brand, then you just use a brand page for that, because it wouldn't make sense if it was just a random person, you know.
Got it. Thank you.
Of course.